So, you've bought your first guitar. You get out the box. It looks awesome. What's the first step? Now, before you can start playing any of the songs you want to do, you have to get one of these little bad boys. A nice headstock tuner. I've chosen the Boss Chromatic Tuner TU01. I also have the Boss TU2 floor tuner. Bit of a Boss whore. Anyway, first of all, you need to tune up the instrument. If you don't tune it up, it'll sound crap, and we don't want that. We want a good sounding guitar. Now, the strings, all 6 of them, from low to high, are tuned to the pitch of E, A, D, G, B, and E. That's how it should sound. Now, what we do is, first of all, we switch on the floor tuner as well. And use your headstock tuner or your floor tuner, more likely a headstock tuner. And you just want to pluck the string very gently. Or pluck it with the same velocity that you're going to strum with. Because if you pluck it like that, you can hear that awful vibration. Pluck it too softly, it won't ring true. On a guitar like this, which is a Stratocaster with 6 tuning pegs in a straight line, you want to turn away from you to sharpen the string, and you want to turn towards you to flatten the string. A, D, G, B, and E. Sounds awesome, doesn't it? Now, let's look at the very first chords you're probably going to look at. It's based around a system known as the caged system. C, A, G, E, and D. Each one of those refers to a particular, in this case, major chord. We're going to be playing a lot of them. So, for example, we'll start off with C. C major. Really beautiful chord. That's how it should sound. Now, what we want to do is, we got our first finger, second, third, and fourth. Now, for this first chord, the C major, you want your third finger on the 3rd fret of the A string here. Try and aim so your ring finger is in the centre of the fret. Then we want our second finger on the 2nd fret of this D string. Okay? If you notice my thumb's over the top of the guitar, I'm not really putting any pressure, I'm not gripping it really hard. It's just there to balance, essentially. Now, so those are the first 2 pitches we've got, a C and the 2nd fret of this D string here, which is an E. Now, we're going to have an open G string, and then we're going to take this first finger and put it on the 1st fret of the B string, which is a C note. C, E, G, C. We could also go one further and put that high E in there as well. Sounds pretty damn good. And if you've ever seen the film Matilda, this is the first chord for Send Me On My Way by Rusted Root. Now, A major. Okay? Started with an open A string. That's what we call the bass note, so the lowest note and the root of this chord. And we want to use 3 fingers again but this time we're going to put them all in a straight line. So you're going to have our first finger on the second fret of the D string, on that E note there. Then we're going to have our middle finger on the second fret of the G string here. And then we're going to have our ring finger on the second fret of the B string. Once again. Now, in that case, push down and try and make sure there's a little bit of a bend on here. You don't want them straight, you don't want to be pushing them down like that. Doesn't sound pretty at all. So, have a bit of a bend. And once again, my thumb's over the top of the guitar, but I'm not really putting any pressure on. It's just there to kind of, act as a guide and allow my hands to move freely and stop the guitar falling like that. Yeah? Easy. Now, next one, C. We've done C and A. Now we're going to do G. Ooh, now G. There are a few ways you can play this. I like to kind of use different finger patterns depending on the transition that I'm doing and depending on where I've been and where I'm about to go in a chord progression, okay? So, what I mean by that is this. Most diagrams, if you see any chord diagrams, they may say first 3 fingers or 4 fingers, okay? So we have our first finger on the second fret of the A string. We have our second finger on the third fret of the lower E string. Then we go all the way down to the B string, third fret with the third finger. And then our little finger can go on the third fret of the high E. With this one you can strum all the way through. Okay? Alternatively, you can omit the little finger and just have this ring finger on the third fret of the high E, meaning we've got an open B string, an open G string, and an open D string as well. So, middle finger is going to be on the third fret of the low E. You're going to have your first finger on the second fret of the A, and then your third finger on the third fret of the high E. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Now, when I say it all depends on the chord progression, for example, if I'm going between this chord here, a G major, but I'm going to go to a D major, both these chords share the same finger. Ring finger, third fret of the B string. So instead of going from this 3-fingered approach here and then having to lift this one up and then go to a D major, I'm going to use this voicing, and then all I have to do is keep this ring finger flattened, boom, and then move these first 2 fingers down, make it a D major, like this. Or you can do it in the reverse. D to G. Anyway, so we've done C, A, and G now. Now let's look at E major, okay? E major is really common. That's how it looks, okay? So we've got an open E string, bass note, second finger on the second fret of the A string. Then we're going to have our third finger on the second fret of the D string. And finally our first finger on the first fret of this G string, which in this case is a G sharp. So we've got an E, a B, an E, a G sharp, B, E. You can strum all the way through with this one. Once again, it's also found in a shed load of AC/DC riffs. So for example, Back in Black, it's E, D, which we'll just look at in a second, and then A. Okay, so we've got C major, A major, G major, E major, and now finally D major. This starts here on the open D string, okay? So you got a D, then we got our first finger on the second fret of the G string. Then we've got our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B string. And then finally we've got our middle finger on the 2nd fret of the high E. So in here we've got the notes D, A, D, and F sharp. Yeah? Pretty straightforward. So now we've done C, A. Once again, using a different finger choice here, so I'm actually using my latter 3 fingers, which makes transition between the C and the A quite easy, because in this finger pattern they share the same string and fret. Middle finger, 2nd fret of the D string. Yeah? Easy. Then we've got the G. 1st finger, 2nd fret of the A string. Middle finger, 3rd fret of the low E. Skip out the D and G so they're open. Then we've got ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B. And finally, you got your little finger on the 3rd fret of the high E. Then we've got E major, which I'm going to say use my first 3 fingers, but you don't have to. You can use the latter 3 fingers if you want to. And then we're just going to go middle finger, 2nd fret of the A string. Then ring finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, and finally our 1st finger on the 1st fret of the G string. Straightforward. So we've done C, A, G, E, and now finally D. So, first 3 fingers, you want your index finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. You want your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B string. And then finally you want your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the high E, strumming from, or picking from the D string downwards. Don't worry about the A string or the E string, you don't need them for this one. Pretty straightforward, eh? So far, A, G, E,